We're a minute late. I can get louder, but okay, let's see. I guess we need to find out whether we got enough people or not. We got myself, we got Matt. Carl is absent. He's got some issues going on. Janet is here. Carol's here. Larry Pence, Tom Leahy, Jerry Scott. So we've got all but one here. Tom Hawkins is going to fill in on some of Carl's stuff tonight. So we're glad he's here. District Attorney Hans Wall, he's here. Shirley is going to be disappearing because she's not feeling real well. So Carol will be taking some notes, and obviously we've got the recording going already. So that's where we're at. Let's open with a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, we're going to go through the administrative announcements. We did the pledge. We'll do the administrative announcements. If you wish to speak or ask a question, fill out the form on the table in the back. Return it to the table or give it to the secretary or chairman. Here, this is a good place to put it. I think you can read that from back there too. Yeah. So if you fill out one, put it up here. You can still respond to the website with questions too. The chair will address questions or comments after the agenda is completed. Normally in the new business section, time permitting, meetings normally last approximately 2 hours. I don't know who said that. That's a lie. I ain't gonna be in a meeting less than 3 hours. Yeah. Might be my fault though. See, I'm the chairman, so I should be able to control that or influence it. So let's see if we can't do it sooner, but be productive too. Wait until the chairman recognizes you before you talk. Limit your comment or question to 3 minutes unless the chair specifically extends your time. Where 2 or more representatives share common interest, only one will be designated to speak for a total of 5 minutes. For a good cause, the chairman may extend the time limit. Speakers are not allowed to assign his or her time or any part of their time to another speaker. A member of the public speaking on any matter shall confirm him, herself to the question or matter before the board, shall not use unbecoming, abusive, or unparliamentary language, and shall avoid commenting on personalities or character of any board member, former board trustees, other officials, staff, or the public. The board reserves the right to have the Clay County Sheriff's Department remove an individual or individuals who fail to meet this request. Address your question or comments only to the chairman and not to a specific trustee or individual in the meeting. Trustees can only respond to an individual if the chairman requests. A person who decides to appeal any decision made by the board with respect to any matter considered at the meeting is advised that this same person will need a record of the proceedings, and that accordingly the person may need to ensure that a verbatim record of the proceedings is made, including the testimony and evidence upon which the appeal is to be based. The district attorney, district accountant, engineering advisory group may be requested by the chairman to speak at any time for advice, suggestions, or information. Board meetings are audio recorded and posted on the board website, www.lamspd.com. Questions can be submitted in advance by email to district.secretary@lamsa.com. To the trustees, all trustees, including board officers, must vote. A trustee with a conflict of interest regarding business before the board must declare that conflict with the chair before the vote. District attorney may be consulted on this issue. If a trustee needs to leave early, the trustee needs to advise the chairman. An important issue may need to be moved up for discussion earlier for approval and vote. Now we're into the meeting agenda. Chairman calls for approval of the last month's meetings. That would have been the June meeting. Any comments on that? June's minutes of meetings?
It was presented to the board via email, and
Yeah.
we had no corrections that I heard beyond. I saw a final printed today, which is the, okay, I don't have a copy of it right now.
No. Everybody should have read it. It was sent to them, and corrections were made or modifications made, and it was sent again, and that sort of thing.
Make a motion.
So we need a motion to accept the minutes. Okay,
Second.
got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. So how many we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7. So that would be the 7 and 0, right? Now we're, Carl is not here, and he had asked Tom to go through a little bit of an update. We've got one of our major things for tonight is in this treasurer report area, and that's the first one is checking money market and monthly checks, then finalize the budget. To finalize the budget is probably the biggest thing we got to do tonight. It is the biggest thing. So, Tom?
Okay, so the general checking account balance June 1 was $6,014. We moved $10,000 into the account. There was an electronic funds transfer of $45 during the month, and the checks from last month were $11,879. That left us an ending month balance of $4,090. This month we have a transfer for $20,000 to cover the checks that we wrote. The total checks are $20,955, and that's going to leave us a current balance of $3,135. The money market checking account is $615,838 at the beginning of June. We had $5,846 of deposits, and that concludes the deposits for last year's assessments. So there's no more money coming in until November. We moved $10,000 last month. We had $29 of interest. The balance June 30 was $611,714. We moved $20,000 this month, leaving a current balance of $591,714. Total fund balance currently is $594,849. And I will need a motion and a second to accept the treasurer's report.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got a move and a second. Any discussion? All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, carried. 7-0.
Current checks for this month that total to $20,955. We have check for $37.76 for Shirley Phillips, $977.86. Check number 3777 to Cosmo Gonzalez for $9,238.60, and that is 2 months billing. Check number 3778 to Dara Mayo for $775.82, and that is for 4 months. Check number 3779 Forest Groundworks for 2 cuts is $4,688. Lease valve and pump, check number 3780 for $4,800. Check number 3781 to Thomas Hallquist for $430. And then we're going to have an electronic funds transfer for $45 to Clay Electric, and that totals $20,955.28. We need a motion to accept the checks 3776 through 3781 and the electronic funds transfer.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 7-0. Okay.
The budget.
You want me to give a little introduction here on where we're at on the budget? Or do you
You
want
do
to?
what you want. Just up to you.
Well, it's the most important thing we got going. In our last month's meeting, we discussed the budget. Well, actually, we've discussed it for the last several meetings. And changed some things, and we even changed some things at the last meeting. We had a requirement by Florida chapters to have I guess you would call temporary, it's not temporary, what's the right word? You gotta have a preliminary budget posted to the website, 30 days ahead. We did that. Now we come here tonight where we have to, we'll have some discussion if that's necessary, and then we'll need to we'll need to make a final determination, a final vote on accepting this budget, or if we need to do a little more tweaking, we can do that. But we need to vote before the night's over to hopefully accept the budget. I'm not sure what happens if we don't do that. I don't think it's good though. So, and we did pass it that last time. I think it was a 5-2 vote. I know it was a 5-2 vote. So that's what we've got to do tonight. And if you think about it, Tom may have to help me out here a little bit, but you know, the thing that people are concerned about, obviously, and me too, and everybody on the board too, because we all live here. We're all impacted by assessments. We had the assessment that was voted on back in October of 2021. It passed. We've had a lot of discussion go on. We've had processes take place to where we've got an engineering group now. But if you looked at 2,400, the number that we've talked about and that we've got in this budget that's been, the preliminary budget's been posted on, and that's, then that really gives you, I think the number's right, $750,000 a year with the 2,400, but you know, that could go towards improvements, dam improvements and engineering and all those things associated with it. So, you know, think about that. If you say, well, gee, let's not go that much, then, you know, 750,000 1 year, 2 years is $1.5 million. So that means 4 years is $3 million, you know? So it's, you're not gonna get there with the type of work that we have to do. The only thing that can come back at some point in time is some other kind of funding, grants, that sort of thing, that Hanson Group that we've hired has Kimley Horn that's working on that, along with Janet's continue to work on it. So there's possibilities down the road, but that's pretty much where we're at, the way I see it. You know, so if you look at it, we've still got it at the full $2,400 for this year. Every year the budget has to be reviewed, so every year it will be looked at again. But the board last month voted to accept this as preliminary budget. Any other discussion?
Yep, I just wanted to, again, voice my concerns, which are twofold at this point. Number one, I don't support a $2,400 assessment. I voiced that plenty last month. And number two, even with the $2,400 assessment, we are overspending our budget by about $100,000, and that concerns me greatly. So I will not be voting in support of the budget as written.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Only one, and this is based on, we asked Larry to check on some fish costs, and I don't know, I can't remember, and I thought Carl was bringing the most up-to-date budget tonight, so I didn't bring one, but I need to know if we did put money in for the fish or not.
No.
Okay. So that's something that Larry didn't want to bring up.
Well, I thought we had, I know we took the $6,000 out from the previous budget, but I thought we were talking about, like I wrote it in there, habitat improvement fish, 10,000. And I've been trying to get a hold of anyone that would help us to put some, what I wanted was tilapia that would eat the algae. That fish species will eat the algae, and believe it or not, today at 9 o'clock this morning, I finally got a gentleman to call me back and explain to him what our problem was, what we had, and gave him the size of all 3 lakes to where he could come up, it's Shawnee Dew Fish Outing Incorporated. They're in High Springs, Florida. And he said, per conversation earlier regarding Asbury Lake and other, we would recommend stocking tilapia for the algae at 55 fish per acre. And I explained to him, because you know, algae only grows out so far in the fingerlings. It's not going to go out there to the 15, 16, 17, and 20-foot water. It's going to stop at a certain point. So what we discussed was putting fish in each of the fingers out to where they felt it was necessary. He came up with, it's he and his dad and brothers run this thing. And there are 55 fish per acre. It would believe that the volume of water is 116 acres, roughly. I gave him the size of all 3 lakes. And the total would be roughly 176 acres that would be stocking. It's not the whole lake that we're talking about. And that total would come to $6,290. That would be 9,700 fingerlings that would be put into the lakes to eat the algae up. Delivery charge guaranteed to fish is an additional $75, which brings it to $6,365. And of course, they would want a few weeks to make everything ready to bring it up if we do with that. I told him we had a budget meeting tonight, and I would know at a better time to get back to him whether we would be buying the fingerlings or not. But that's roughly what it would cost, or it's not roughly, it's a ballpark figure of $6,365 to put these tilapia fingerlings in to the lakes in order to eat the algae up.
So you're talking 2 subjects here, it sounds to me like. One is on the budget. You're saying we don't have any money in the budget, so we have to put $7,000, rounded up, 6,500 into the budget.
It was 6,000 before. The only reason I'm suggesting more is that there's a downside to tilapia. Bass love to eat them too, so not all these fingerlings are going to survive.
Yeah.
You know, to eat up all the algae that we need. So if there's a little extra money in there, we can get some more, okay. If not, that's the only thing I can add to it is 6,500, I'm sure would cover 1 stocking.
All right, so you're making a proposal that, or a motion that we increase the budget by $6,500?
Yes.
Okay, that's a motion made.
Not a second. I have
Okay.
one.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a second. Now we can have some more discussion. Okay, go ahead, Jen.
Well, I'm really fearful, guys, that we are following the history of Lake Asbury. I am very fearful that we're playing what I like to call whack-a-mole. We're doing fish, we're doing communication, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're getting $2,400, in an assessment. Woo, let it rain. No, we've got to stop. Where is our focus? We can't be focused on this and that and that and that. We have to be laser focused on fixing these dams. We're going to overspend at this point, and we're not going to be able to get those dams done.
We're already
We've got liability.
we're
Yes,
already
sir.
overspending by $100 grand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we have to be focused on those dams. I am not in favor of any spending that is not going to provide for the maintenance and the reconstruction of those dams. It's dangerous. Even these are high hazard dams. The toes are giving way. We have a dangerous situation. And we want to focus on fish and communication and this. Yeah, that's all great, algae. Yeah, that's all great, but we got to get our stuff under control first. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Believe me, I don't care. I really don't. The lakes, that algae doesn't bother me personally. I went out yesterday and caught 15 bass. You just, you know, it really doesn't. I'm doing this because people come in and were complaining about the condition of the lakes and the water. And then I hear it's our board's responsibility to maintain that water.
And it is.
So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I I really,
Oh, no, I'm not saying you, it's, you folks out there too, you have to direct us. Do you want Alger, or do you want advanced specs? Do you want a communication system in here, or do you want advanced specs? What is it that you want? We can't do it all. People are going to be, if we go up to $2,400 assessment, people are going to lose their houses because they can't afford it.
Well, you weren't here at the meeting last month, but we approved, doing some engineering, money-wise, we put in the budget for doing some dredging type things, and it's in the budget. So I see no reason why we shouldn't put I mean, people live here, people have to, have kids in water and
We're repeating history. We are repeating history.
I think I've talked to a number of people, and the comments I get is the growth of algae and all this stuff is worse than it's ever been.
They're not thinking about the fact that these things cost money, and that's gonna take away from our repair of the dam.
Okay, that's your comment. Tom?
Well, I'm trying to put this in some scale, so there's what, 440 something homes here, 42 homes? And probably, I'm just doing this quickly mentally, it's probably about 30 homes that are looking at seaweed and silt, 30 or 40.
On Hazelwood alone.
That's a significant number. I do also agree we need to keep our focus on the dams.
Absolutely.
I think we can serve both goals with some careful planning. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. All right, Carol?
I guess my comment, I appreciate what Janet's saying, but at the same time, this is going to be a period of time that it takes us to get the dams renovated and back in good shape, and I appreciate that as well. We can't just let the condition of our lakes go beyond help while we try to do that. So I think that we, like Tom says, can work our way through this and do both at the same time. Because you don't want to leave the conditions as they are now, because they're atrocious.
I think we all recognize that the process of fixing the dams, there's a year of planning and engineering. There's probably some work time of whatever the modeling of this process goes on, and then by the time you find the contractors that start, you're probably in the second or third year timeline. So I think we can do both carefully.
Okay. Any other discussion?
There is one other problem I want to add, and there's a gentleman in the audience tonight who will verify what I'm saying. We were fortunate enough that for whatever God's blessing or whatever took place, we're getting eelgrass back into the lake. It's in here. People, because they don't want it around their docks, the kids don't like it, they're digging it up and tearing it up. And the gentleman I'm speaking of just is helping out the, which commission is that? Pat? No, I'm talking about Pat, who is, you're helping out with the,
Yeah, years ago, the St. John's Water Management District had 2 or 3 people on their staff that monitored the eelgrass in the river.
because it's coming back into the river, and that's what's cleaning the river up, and that's what's going to clean our lakes up if it's allowed to do so.
Yep.
You don't have to have other grasses in there if they just don't tear it up, but I see it floating all the time, and I had one gentleman tell me that he said, well, my kids don't like it around the legs when they're in water. And I understand that, but you're also destroying one thing that's going to help clean the lake up, and I'd like for people to know that. You got to leave the stuff alone. It's not going to grow up and keep spreading out. It's only going to grow so far because it just comes to the top of the water level. That's all the further it's going to grow.
Okay. So we're back to, we got a motion and a second. We've had discussions. Is there any more discussion on whether
Yes.
we put it into the budget or not? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so 2 comments. One's more of a question. What's to exclude the fingerlings from going out into the lake and finding a different food source?
No.
as opposed to camping out in the finger and eating the algae.
Yeah, they're gonna stay there and eat the algae.
Is that the only habitat they're accustomed to?
Yes, that's what
Okay.
that's why they're in there, yeah. No, they're not gonna go out in the middle of the lake like shad do in the wintertime or whatever to look for food. They're gonna stay where we put them in all these figurines, and they might go out to the mouth of it, but they're not gonna keep traveling all over the lake. It's a food supply.
And the only comment that I had is I don't know if you included Hazelwood finger in that. You can yank that out if you'd like.
Exactly.
They'll be beached.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you have a question, you're supposed to fill out a form.
Fill it out now and they give it to you?
Yeah, and but technically, the way reading the administrative announcement this morning, or the start of the meeting, it may not get answered until the end of the meeting. So,
I don't have a question about that.
I'm sorry.
I just have a question about this whole thing.
But if you fill out the paperwork, that'll be the proper procedure.
Have a discussion
I'm sorry.
at the end. I said it's so hard to have a discussion at the end when you're discussing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the other thing that's hard is to have a 3-hour meeting and be here at 10:30 at night because we wasted a lot of time, and people get, there's no organization or consistency in how the meetings are conducted, and that creates big problems too.
I was wondering why we need fish at the dam race if we won't even have water. Fish can't live without water.
Well, they'll be in Black Creek probably. So they'll still be alive. We won't. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the comment. So we got that out of the way.
Well, all the comment was, you go straight to the $2,400 assessment, he said we're $100,000 over, and all these people that haven't been getting their taxes assessed pulled out from their mortgages, right? You're just slamming them with triple the budget. And you said 750,000 isn't gonna get us anywhere. So why do we have to slam these people? They're gonna lose their house.
We've already had these discussions.
I know, they're gonna lose their house, man.
We had these discussions. We went through a procedure where we had the assessment voted on, and that's where we're at. So here's where we're
Well, it
at.
was an illegal vote too, though. I didn't get a vote.
Look, no, you're out of line now. You're out of
I
line.
didn't get a vote, not on the lake lot.
That's the way the procedure was set up,
Doesn't
and
matter, it's still not legal.
yes, it is legal. The state was the ones involved in that. So, no, I don't wanna go there. You're out of line, that's enough discussion. So let's get back on target here where we're at.
You were the one who lived there.
I couldn't hear you.
Nothing.
Okay, it's probably a good thing.
I said you were the one who lived there. You guys. Voted all this stuff.
All right. Yeah,
I'd just like to make a comment, whether we put the $6,500 in for fish or not, this budget is an estimate of what we figure our costs are going to be. If you say we have $100,000 of fat in the budget, well, that may never be spent. Because as we go through the year, the board votes on what to spend the money on, having nothing to do with the budget.
I understand that, but the budget you're describing as a loose goal, and I think it's a bad policy to have a loose goal of spending $100,000 into your savings, having quadrupled your assessment.
It's a guideline for the board to follow.
I understand that, and I think it's a poor guideline. It's poor policy. That's my opinion.
Do you have a better suggestion of how should we handle it?
I offered multiple suggestions last meeting. They were voted down.
okay. We're not getting anywhere. So, any more discussion? All right, we've had a motion and a second to add that $6,500. So, all in favor, aye? Aye. All opposed? 1, okay. So it carries. So we'll put the $6,500 in. Doesn't mean we're going out and buy these carp, and it
Hold
doesn't mean.
on. What did we just vote on? What did we take the what did we take the $6,500 out of?
What you,
That's
go
what
ahead.
I'm just going to work on a budget. Okay?
so did it come out of
It'll come out of
The-
reserve for capital. won't it,
the
Tom?
capital?
The reserve for capital is where it's gonna come out.
Okay.
So, and in a way, that's kind of slush fund money too, isn't
So
it?
that
It was-
reserve-
it was
that
un-
uncommitted
reserve
now.
went from 350 down to 343,500.
Before it was under 54,617 habitat improvement.
Okay, we've done that. All right, so if we want to talk about cleaning the lake up later, it's on the agenda for later, then that topic can come up again then, or maybe more research is needed to be done, or, because that wasn't on the agenda for this meeting, other than it kind of ties in with Carol's comments on the agenda. So that passed, all right? Now, any other discussion about changes to the budget? No? I make a motion, we accept the budget that was submitted on a preliminary basis with that one change, $6,500.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion, second. Any more discussion? All right. Let's do this different. All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, all opposed? Okay, it carries 5-2, so the budget is official, other than now you've got some other legal stuff that we've got to do from, I forget these legal words, resolutions, is that the name of the legal word? So we've got some resolutions to do, and then we submit this to the county. Okay? Now, so that gets us past finalize the budget, right? That's anything else from your standpoint, Tom?
No.
I appreciate you handling that, the whole thing from Carl's absence. Hans, we've got resolutions that have to be approved and
Right,
signed and that sort of thing.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, there's 3 resolutions every year that have to be passed. I drafted them, I just needed the budget number to finalize it, and so I'll finalize it and email it to Shirley. But it's, Resolution 2201 is to request the county set the millage rate for the district at 0. Resolution 2202 is for the board to adopt the budget for the 22-23 fiscal year. And then Resolution 2203 is for the levy of the non-ad valorem assessment, which was just set. So I'll put those numbers in there now that it's been voted on. Email it to Shirley, and then they can get signed.
Okay.
What's the first resolution?
For the county to set the millage rate for the district at 0.
All right, so do we have to have a motion and approval on that or not? So
Yeah.
we probably do. Huh?
Motion second to approve.
Yeah.
They've already been drafted. I've sent them to Carl. I believe I sent them to everybody, I think, the drafts. I just need to finalize the number, so that's all it is.
All right, so we need a motion. I'll make the motion that we approve the resolutions. All right, any more discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? Pass 7-0. Okay. You had a couple of other things on the agenda, Hans?
Well, Carl put on there the bid and purchasing policy. I know Matt wanted to talk about that. That's not really, I didn't ask for that to be on there, so
Okay,
I'll leave that to Carl and Matt to discuss.
all right.
If we want to punt to next month, I'm good with that.
Okay, so I'll accept that. Anybody want to not punt the next month? Boy, that's some good progress there. Good. All right, so we'll move that to August meeting. All right. The certificate of correction, I don't even know what that is. That was on the agenda too.
So, you'll remember when I start talking about it, but it's, there's one owner,
Oh, yeah.
Mr. Bumgarner, who owns
Two lots.
Two lots.
Yeah.
And one's not within the district, and that was researched by Wayne Flowers before me.
Yep.
He left, he retired before we got to this point. I double checked it, he's right. So my office called the county to say, hey, what can we do to remove that? And I'm not disagreeing with Carl. He says that you just, when you get the rolls, you make the correction there. I'm not disagreeing with that. It's just the county keeps telling us we have to sign a certificate of correction and send it to them. So I have that drafted as well. It just removes that lot 20 because that's not part of the district. So
It's not waterfront, basically is what you're saying.
it's not. Yeah, it's not.
One lot is, one lot's not.
Yeah, the South Lake Asbury, a stream from it ends on lot 21. It doesn't go to lot 20.
Okay.
So I just need that to be motioned and seconded, then I can finalize it and email it to Shirley to sign, for you to sign, I guess, and then I'll forward that to the county.
So moved.
Move, second, okay. Any more discussion? All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? 7-0. All right. Now we're into, is that all you've got, Hans?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now we're into, I'll give you a quick update on a few things. The Hanson update, we did approve them at the last meeting, the 6th of June, their contract, and that contract was executed on the 10th of June. I contacted Brian Wozniak, and we got that moving, and they've got all their act together on signing off on it, so that is in motion. He gave me a brief update, actually gave it to me on Friday. They're working on, they've been researching and outlining the grant matrix to present to LAMSTA. And it will include other mechanisms in addressing funding efforts. Should be ready next week. State needs to partner with LAMSTA for any of the federal dam-related opportunities, as only states are eligible to apply. They've tried hard to have the state submit for 2022 funding, but they said they're not yet set up to support the grant application. So the state people are not set up yet to support the grant application. The state FDEM, Florida Department of Emergency Management, I think is probably what those initials are, has agreed to submit for the 2023 grant application, which is a 65-35 cost share. We'll be in a very strong position for this application. Other FEMA opportunities will be identified for grant funding. Laura Dewey with FDEM indicated that awards pertaining to dams have not been funded in the past. However, Kimberly Horn will write the application to tell a compelling story on the application to increase our chances for success. In addition to the grant matrix, we're drafting a one-page informational sheet to be utilized when speaking with state and federal representatives or congressmen, and garnering their support in advance and getting LAMSTA's dam rehabilitation funding needs known will help and may lead to appropriations. From the engineering side, the engineering side is reviewing the multitude of past studies conducted with a focus on the recent effort published between 2019 and 2021. Once we get these, summarize our findings, we can schedule meetings with the regulatory agencies to discuss our design target. So that's pretty much the thumbnail sketch of what they're doing. You know, there's Kimberly Horn's involved from a grant standpoint. Bergman's involved from the engineering standpoint. So, and Hanson is the main guy. So those guys have subbed to Hanson. And so they've had to get their ducks in a row on getting their contracts with each other finalized and all that too. So they're moving. I think they're moving pretty quickly. One of the things that I wanted to update you on was Tracy Woods. On the 10th of June at 5:30 in the afternoon, roughly, I got a call from Tracy Woods. She's the dam safety officer. And I thought, my goodness, it probably ain't good getting a call at 5:30 in the afternoon on a work day. And it turned out that it wasn't what she wanted, wasn't a big deal. She had been included on an email that was sent to the district secretary and to Tracy Wood requesting some information. And so all she wanted was to know, are you guys gonna handle the response, or do I need her to do it? I said, well, it's our business, so I assume we've got the information, I assume we'll handle it. She said, well, I hope that's what you would say. I said, well, since you're on the phone, I said, is that all you got? She said, yeah. I said, okay, well, since you're on the phone, we just approved at our Monday meeting, this was a Thursday, a contract with Hanson Professional Services and for rehab of our dams. And so she got really interested in talking about that and asked me questions. End result was she said, look, you verbally told me a number of things that have happened with the dams, but I need you to put that along with the Hanson deal in writing so that they'll have it in their records that we've done these things and we've responded to them. And it all goes back to her letter in February of 2021, which says, golly, we've got an unsatisfactory dam, and that's, you know, that's what got us to the point we're at today, basically. Well, that, and I guess you could say lack of doing things in the past, or however you want to say it. But anyway, when you write the stuff that's been done, I copied the board on it, and I think I copied you, Hans, and Tom, too. But I think it's probably worth reading the response that I gave her, even though I made one mistake that she caught and pointed out. One of the most significant events is that LEMS has signed a contract with Hanson Professional Services. The contract was executed on June 9th, 2022 with Hanson Professional Services for the rehabilitation of the Lake Asbury Dam Complex. Hanson will have Bergman and Kimley Horn working with them. Phase 1 of the project is to start immediately and will take approximately 3 months to complete. It consists of the following main points. First one is review grant funding opportunities and prepare and assist in applications and follow-through. Item 2 was review prior engineering reports. Item 3 was regulatory agency coordination with the State Dam Safety Officer, that's Tracy Wood, and St. John Water Management District. That is thought to be pretty important because Cammie Dewey, who's been involved with LAMSTA for a number of years, is retiring in November. I assume that's public information from the St. John Water Management District standpoint. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what getting further along with our engineering process probably is important because of her. She's been somewhat of a supporter, I think. And at least she knows the history and all that. Item 4 was conduct independent geological data analysis of prior information available. Item 5 is conduct independent hydraulic data analysis of prior information available. And 6 is engineering site inspection, assessment, and documentation. So it goes on to say after phase 1 is complete, then additional information may need to be gathered along with permitting and design. Following is a list of items, and that covers the Hanson part. Following is a list of items done and ongoing in order to stabilize the function of the existing dams in order to address deficiencies listed in FDEP's letter of February 18, 2021. One is the 2 valves on the North Lake that discharges to Black Creek have been rebuilt. The South Lake valve and Lake Ryan valve have also been rebuilt. All valves are operable. 2 is a contract was established to check the operation of the valves and maintain them on a monthly basis in August of 2021. 3 is an advisory group of engineers and a top maintenance person to aid in identifying issues faced and develop a request for qualifications for an engineering firm to select for rehabilitation of the Lake Asbury Dam Complex. It was done in September of 2021. In October 2021, a referendum was voted on and passed, which allowed the current assessment to be increased from the current $600 per year. It can be increased up to $2,400 per year. The tentative budget was approved at the June 6, 2022 Lansing meeting, monthly meeting at 2,400. The final budget approval will be at the July monthly meeting. And then another one is a siphon system, item 5. A siphon system was installed in July I had 2022, that would have been hard because we weren't even in July then, 2022. So 2021, she corrected that for me. On an emergency basis, property owner has not agreed to an easement, and therefore there is no permit, and the siphon system will not be used since both valves on the North Lake have been rebuilt. At this point, all we have done is check the siphon system monthly. It will not function right now due to a broken pipe fitting. And that was a discussion that I had with Tracy, because we put that siphon system in without an agreement for an easement. And our engineer of record at that time said, more or less, we're gonna do it, and so we did it. The irony in the rest of the story, I didn't mention Tim Lee's name, but Tim is the guy that fixed all the valves. Tim is the guy that is redoing, that's checking them on a monthly basis and doing some other things along those lines with the dams. So I didn't mention him by name, but he's the guy that's done it. The valve maintenance contract was expanded to include monthly readings and various cleanings. All right, that's Tim. The irony of the siphon system is, had we repaired the east valve in a timely manner, we would have not had to put in a siphon system at all. And so that's one of the reasons that since we've got a siphon system installed, Cammie Dewey said, what if I tell you to take that thing out? I said, I would ask you please not do that. We've spent the money, we've installed it. We're checking it on a monthly basis. I would say we won't use it unless we absolutely have to, and please don't make us take it out. And she says, well, we'll consider that. So it's still in a we'll consider mode.
That's not a no. That's not a no.
Yeah. The EAP was completed in August 2021. That's and then videos, eighth item, videos were taken on both pipes on the north dam. The camera was run from the discharge point to the riser pipe where the valve's located. The integrity of the pipes appears to be good. This was done by Engineered Linings. That guy lives here on the lake. And a report was made, and I believe Tracy received the report and videos July of 2021. I hope this meets your approval. Let me know if you need anything else. And I got a response back, said it's fine. I thought it was worth reading in this meeting because we have a number of new board people. These discussions were serious discussions, and a lot of them took place that I was involved in. Not the whole board, but I was involved in with our engineers at that time, and Tracy Wood, and even Cammie. So some of these, when you stop and you say, where are we now? Think about where we would be had we not got Mr. Lee to fix these valves that we've got. We would be in bad shape. We would be in bad shape. So I thought for that reason, plus some history of people in the audience, maybe you know this, maybe you didn't, but there's a number of things that have been accomplished that have put us on the right track and given us a little bit of relief, I think. So that was Tracy's comment. The agenda had a Hayward contract. Hayward, we gave them a contract for putting roughly a 15-foot platform out to the South Lake kettle. They started that, I think, last week, Thursday, Friday last week, and they've got the wooden part done, and they will be installing the fencing and gates and all the safety-related things soon. So that's on the go. I had a comment down here, and it's really Mark Montage has headed us up, but I thought it's worthwhile for people at the board level and in the community to know that there's a the county has a watershed study and a stormwater study lined up. I say lined up. There's some kind of progress going on with the stormwater study, and they're gonna focus on Lake Ashbury, and I don't know what else they're focused on, but in the stormwater part. And they're really looking at things like, is there water coming in here that shouldn't be? Why? Where's all the water coming from? Stuff like that. So Mark has handled that. I've been to a couple of meetings. I see a couple of people in the audience that have been to a few of the meetings. So that is going to continue. What's the right words? The council lady, the doctor, she's been at the last, Kristen Burke, yeah. She's been at the last two meetings that I went to. But those are continuing. You got another one coming up roughly every month, is that? In August. Yeah. So it's not an official, it's not supported by us. Mark's the one that got a group of people together and they've gone after it, and it seems to be that they're making some progress.
I have a question. I know that Mark's doing that, and I don't know about progress, but I want to make sure that he has the Wesley Road finger on that, because we have gushing water coming out of nobody knows where into that finger. So I don't know, is that on the study?
You can.
The county study is looking at all, they got the two studies. One is a county-wide study of what's happening with the watershed in our county. And then the other is specifically for the Lake Ashbury watershed, water that comes into our lake. And so they're looking at everything in terms of where the water is coming, how much water is coming, and where is it going. And then our group is working to make sure that we don't have any illicit water coming into our lakes, any water that wouldn't be coming there anyway. And then also the water that's coming in, that it's not causing more damage, sediment runoff, pollution, things like that.
So is that?
So it includes everything through.
But I think if I can support what Carol's saying is, I saw an email from the lady that coordinates the meeting, and she asked for us to point out anything specific, and obviously Hazelwood Hole is specific. That most of those people had visited here and looked at Hazelwood Hole. This pipe you're talking about, I went down and stomped around in the weeds and the mud and trees and all kinds of stuff, and I couldn't find it. She couldn't find it either. She was with me and she couldn't find it. And then she said that a friend of theirs is the one that found it and took pictures, and she apparently sent you pictures of the lady that lives at 190. I can't remember her name. Dawn, yeah.
I have some pictures.
Okay. So I guess if any of us are aware of, or anybody's aware of things that Mark and them may not be aware of, then need to bring it up. So.
If I could just add with permission, anybody that finds any issues or have anything that they feel is a problem, just go ahead and send me an email at my Gmail account, markwantage@gmail.com. And I'll get that into the list that I get to the county.
Okay. All right. So that's why I wanted to mention that, because there's things going on, and you hear of different things going on kind of through the grapevine, and you don't know whether it's really happening. Is it official? Or is it ongoing, or what? So in this case, it is. It's you've had at least two meetings, and you got another one scheduled the middle of July, I think. Okay. Mr. Leahy.
Before you move off of yours, can I have that letter you were reading from to attach to the minutes, because I could not write all that stuff.
You're talking about the one to Tracy Wood?
Yes.
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
There had been some discussion a while back about when we move into the construction phase, what can be done about relocation of poles on the north dam and various things. I've got a Clay Electric number, and I think these numbers will move forward or will flow into the budget over the next couple of years. So it just helps give us more detail into the costing. So originally the feedback was, well, Clay Electric is not going to do anything and we're just going to have to leave those poles where they are. Well, I met with the Clay Electric engineering folks and they came and surveyed the site and they gave us a number a few months back for about, I forget the number frankly, I'd have to look it up again, but I'm going to say it's about $40,000 in today's dollars. They will relocate their poles to the north side of the road if that's what we want. I also broached the topic of, well, let's just consider what it would take to go underground and still serve the 4 or 5 homes. And they gave the price on that. It's a little more money. It's probably about, they require 2 4-inch conduits. They're about $10 a foot. Again, in today's dollars, that number may have already changed. And that would add about 20 grand to the scope per conduit. Several of those poles are a shared pole with AT&T because AT&T has their phone lines and such on the same poles. So it took a while to get AT&T together in this conversation. They've come back and they said, well, we can move all of ours underground. It would be the same thing. They need 1 operational conduit and a spare for roughly $60,000 plus the cost of the conduits. So that will have to flow into the budget because we don't know who's going to be our contractor. We don't know the phasing of all this work or what the work might entail. And we certainly don't want to do it twice. So there's going to be some planning and engineering effort. But in round numbers, this helps pin down somewhere in the order of $150,000 of things we know we're going to have to do should we tear in to the north table.
Is there a reason that we should know that about why we need to change those poles? I don't understand.
Well, that's the other, I won't say factor, I wasn't going to use the word game, but I'm going to say factor that we got going on here is about 75% of those poles are dry rotted to the point where they need to be changed anyway. But the decision needs to be, do we want to leave them where they are or do we want to move them? And we could do a minimus thing right now. You could do nothing right now. Let's wait till we know what the contract scope is with regard to any engineering.
Okay, I did that, but what's the point of moving them? I need to know, I need to understand.
The reason it was brought up to move them is because we also know we have to do shoreline erosion on the upstream side, and that's smack dab kind of in the way of those poles. It makes sense that those poles move.
You would need a crane to install the sheet pile, and there's not sufficient clearance between the crane and the overhead poles.
Yeah, from a safety point of view, the crane.
Those are 2 really good reasons for why we need to do it. Causes the crane and sheet rock, and the erosion, which makes perfect sense and to consider.
Yep.
The trick is not to do this twice.
So Tom, the question I had for you is, you said the poles are dry rotted. Did you happen to ask them what their schedule is for replacement of the poles?
Well, they've already sistered 3 of them. They just come stick another pole next next.
Okay. Okay,
They will continue to do that as the poles bend or crack.
okay,
But any new work, they will try and push costs to us, and so it becomes a balancing.
Okay, so that'll flow into the Hanson Engineering Group.
Future budgets. Then I wanted to understand, we have a budget number here for fencing, so I invited Dormada Fencing to give me a quote on fencing. That rolls up to about $18,000. There's Lake Bryan is about $6,000 for additional fence and gating there. This would be the south end of that dam, if that's what we really need to do. I kind of question that need and who owns that right away, and you know, can we get them involved in this too? I know there's a telephone or a phone power line.
Yeah.
We're not gonna just jump out and spend money on fencing, but we're just trying to identify the cost of this fencing. And then he gave me kind of rough numbers for North Lake Asbury. I think there's a couple of fences need to be there, and that's more money, that's like $12,000. But again, it's too early to tell, but at least now I know those numbers. I guess the only other thing of interest right now is the one laying out on the north dam that I called Glen Electric. They typically take 6 to 10 working days to repair them or replace them. I tried to encourage the girl to have them look up the age of these fixtures, and it's probably in their interest, rather than making multiple trips out here just to replace the ones that are failing. Because there's a mix of LEDs now and metal halides, and just get it over with. The problem is they have a policy where we ask them to change the fixture and we have to pay for it. If we just let it fail, then they have to pay for it. So it's another one of these balancing acts. So as you see, if there's any other failures, just let me know and I'll get with them. We all know the acoustics in this room. I had invited a gentleman, he was here earlier, he took some quick measurements of the room. He works for it's the professional division of the Guitar Center, and they do sound systems for municipal churches, districts similar to ours. And he's gonna give us some ideas for what we can do to this building, and this. Anything we do to this building could be shared by Lake Lot and the Community Association. So there's some discussion that needs to go forward there. But, I'm trying to work on that. First thing would be a set of microphones for each of us that will feed into a recorder to meet some of the legal requirements that we have, and perhaps future it's voice to text software, where then the secretary doesn't have to spend hours and hours transcribing these meetings. So, I've given out a couple of these. I can just pass these around. This is just a notional thing. What we can or can't do, and I'm not trying to break the bank, but the other thing we've got to look at in the next 2 or 3 years, there are going to be numerous meetings with contractors and engineering people remotely. We're going to need to be set up for either Zoom calls or computer links where they can share screens and communicate and go over details, and as well as communicate to what we need. I think there's some value going forward to I kind of gone down the path of, well, let's get an overhead projector screen, and now I'm starting to think, well, maybe just a big TV screen might be better. So that's not yet decided, and we'll talk about it.
But your point is valid. It came up in our last meeting in June too about Zoom type communication. That's not what Hanson uses, but it's a version. It's the same thing, and so we'll need we will pretty soon need the ability somewhere to have Zoom type meetings with folks.
We don't have internet in this building at all yet, and it's been a discussion among the association trustees as to what we were willing to do. Obviously, we rent this building out all the time. This group and other groups like us don't pay anything. So we balance what we're putting out for what we're taking in. And we're not opposed to it. The basic bottom line is we're not opposed to it. We just have to figure out how to cost share all of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because it can be beneficial to everybody. So that's where we're at within the association.
Yeah, I think we need to, obviously the choices are gonna be Comcast, which is coax, or AT&T, which is fiber. The problem with AT&T is right now they don't come the final mile with fiber, they only come the main trunk ones with fiber. I'll research that and I'll come back and, but we're somewhere in the $50, $60 a month for a minimal internet connectivity here in the building, and it can be used by all interested parties.
It seems to me like, even if we put out the $50 or $60 within this group, it would benefit us greatly over the next 3 or 4 years if we start getting these meetings going to have available.
Here.
But, I still have to get it approved, but that's where we're at right now.
Well, Hanson is going to be participating in monthly meetings with us as this process gets moving, and so Matt mentioned it last time, along with a few other people, that the Zoom type communication. They have some local people, but then they've got some remote people too. So you could have a mixture. Some of them physically here, and some of them on a Zoom type.
And this will feed back to us in terms of savings, because any avoided travel costs, we can book against the budget. That will offset future costs for the engineering people.
Yeah. Okay.
This tow drain, I think Larry and I looked at his tow drain, and I had asked the question, I think we found some drawings, and I don't know what's the next step. I was kind of waiting for the engineering people to get on board and they can tell us what the next step is. As a minimum, run a video camera up there, see where they go, get them redocumented so that we have good data going forward, and then if we have to fix something, we fix something. That's tow drains. Tree inventory, I've done a quick inventory on the Lake Ryan Dam, and I've taken Mac trees there to give me a price. So just to clear the trees off of that dam, dig them up, pull the roots, backfill, sod, that whole nine, just for that little dam there's about $42,000 in today's dollars. So again, that will flow through the budget as it seems fit based on what we're going to do or not going to do. So that's probably going to be, I hate to even guess, but it's going to be a big number on the North Dam when it comes time to start removing trees on that dam. So, but that's tangled up in many other issues, so I'm not going to go there as far as easements and right of way. I don't know quite why this monthly Tim Lee reports is under my name. I don't know.
We can fix that. Just put a line through it. All right. Okay. So that it?
That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for the research. Like you said, we're not ready to do some of these things now, but at least you got some kind of idea of what your order of magnitude you're dealing with. Vice Chairman Warren, over to you.
We skipping water testing?
Oh, we didn't we? We're skipping unfinished business too. I don't know how that wound up on the agenda. Put a line through it too, making progress. Water testing update.
Nothing.
Nothing.
Have you got any more results?
No, they're, the person who handled it for us, that he got.
I didn't get an email, so I figured it weren't any update.
Mo is not doing it, he's back doing it now, we've waited for a month or so.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be back on that line.
Oh, you back good for Florida people? Okay.
That's true. So, I've seen the results from the last 3 months.
Okay.
Okay. So we're done there.
No.
All right. Now we go to the Vice Chairman.
All right, few items. So in talking with Hans, the EAP, basically, we are able to all view it as a board, and if we as the board decide to, we can share it with the public, absent a couple of small details. One of them would be the contact information of the previous chairman. That's going to be something we work out of there on the first draft that we update anyway. So I'd like to make a motion that I go ahead and go through and make a slew of edits, and then email it to you guys to review. And then you guys, it's going to be your first time looking at the EAP. There's a lot to it, so maybe we kick it out a couple of months. You guys take it all in, digest it, look at what the EAP is, what the proposed edits are, and then we do that on a future month.
Okay. When the first EAP was approved, the part that Tracy Woods would allow to be sent out was sent to all the board members at that time. Okay, so y'all have seen it. It's not the first time you've seen it. All right. So we need anything approved there, or just go ahead?
We've got a motion in a second.
Okay. All right, any more discussion? No. Any more discussion? No.
So the motion is just, we're gonna.
Feed
you edits.
The motion is you'll let me take a crack at it first and send you what I got, and then you guys add your edits on top of that, and we'll discuss all the edits at a future date.
All right.
And the EAP is very important, when applying for the high hazard grant, so we have to have a working EAP.
We have one.
When we updated proper meetings.
Yeah, but still, if you ask the question, do we have a functioning EAP? We do, as of August of 2021.
Yeah. Is it really functional when it's got the wrong phone numbers in it?
It's got, as long as it's got somebody that, like it's got Mark McMillan's name on there and his phone number, but he's not there. Then it's got me right under him. Okay. So it's still covered. It's still a functioning document. Needs to be refined to have these changes made.
Suggest that we can do the obvious quick edits and then that part's done, and then we can do all the other more.
Yeah.
There's not gonna be a whole lot to it. I mean, the contact at a couple places and the elevations are wrong in a couple places, so. Other than that, I mean, the elevations we're gonna go over in the flood control protocol review, so that's the bigger chunk.
Okay. All right, so we vote. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Carries.
All right, we can go ahead and skip flood control gate, kettle valve position indicators. Originally, my thought process, and it still is, it's depending on a quote I'm getting from Tim Lee. But right now, I'm probably leaning against going toward that, just because he does a good job of documenting where he leaves his gates when he positions them. My concern is that if he and his son make a change to the gate and they get hit by a bus or win the lottery and decide to go to Tahiti, someone shows up to the gate and they have instructions to close it. Okay, how far do I close it? And God forbid they crank it too many times and break the damn thing. So that's where my concern was, but right now it's alleviated pending his quote. North Lake Asbury encroachments update. So Hans just sent out an email, I don't remember if it was this morning or yesterday morning, had a lot of good information on it. Basically, where we stand right now, the big concern on the North Lake is that our verbal permission to access for maintenance of our emergency overflow spillway has been revoked. So we cannot access either the siphon or the emergency overflow for maintenance or inspection purposes. So what I would ask our attorney to research or think about for a future meeting to present to us would be, so our option that you mentioned in the email was, okay, we can go do an emergency court order for an easement. Is that my understanding? Is that correct?
Well, the right to go on their property, they either need to consent in writing to it, and if they don't, I mean, you can get an order giving you easement rights. So
originally we had written permission, but he has verbally revoked that.
Okay.
So the next step would be, I mean, if this isn't something where we want to wait 2 or 3 years for Hanson to decide, okay, are we going to upgrade the structure? Are we going to leave it alone? Are we going to enhance it? Are we going to do something else? If there's an urgency this summer, I would think we would prefer to be in a position where we've already gotten our ducks in a row as opposed to going and getting an emergency rush order. Would I be correct in assuming that legally that would probably be more expensive than taking our time and doing it better up front? Or is it going to be 6 to 1, half dozen the other?
It could be. I mean, what makes it expensive is just how people respond to it.
Okay.
So, I mean,
So what would be, so let's maybe think about for next meeting. I'll get with you by email. We need to think about next steps for that process.
Well, wasn't there a motion made 2 months ago to have Tim Lee talk to the individuals
Yes,
involved?
and he did, and Tim Lee was the one to whom he revoked the permission from. So that avenue has been exercised, and we've gotten to the end of that rabbit hole for this particular landowner.
I don't think that's my understanding of what's right, of the total story there, is it, Tim?
Well, we were still having discussions about it. He's come up with some facts and figures and offered to lease it or sell it.
Yeah, so,
I think we need to discuss that as an option also.
well,
So I hadn't heard the option to lease. The option to sell, my recollection was something along the lines of about $350,000 thereabouts for rights to it was something along the lines of the rights to the spillway itself plus or minus 15 feet on each side.
And 60 foot.
So 60 feet of width plus the length of the width of the dam. Okay.
The length all the way blank.
Okay. So that was another option the board can consider.
well,
I
here,
believe Mr. Wright's come up with a lease option or rent or.
Just a suggestion, that's all. Nobody has been denied, Tim has never been denied to come on that thing. Every time he's through, so don't go there. Don't go there.
Okay. That was my understanding based on the conversation I had with him.
Then you had the wrong conversation with the wrong person. Tim has never been denied to come on that and do work on that valve, ever.
So he has permission to work on the valve?
When he calls me and lets me know.
Okay.
So don't go there, don't start stuff that's not true, okay? Won't do that.
It's not my intention to start anything, sir.
All right. Look, we don't want this getting out of control. There is a history here that you're not aware of, where there's been things done by people on the board that was not handled right at all. And I was personally involved in the last one, set up big time by our engineering group that we had at that time, where we said we need to put a siphon system in, and we said we've got to get an agreement with Mr. Wright to do that. And Wayne Flowers was our attorney at that time. He drafted all this stuff. There were some problems with some of the verbiage, the wording in there that had gone back to some other things that wasn't handled right. And so Donnie pointed that out. I got back with Wayne, and he changed the wording, and then I go back to Donnie to get him to sign it. Meanwhile, we got this tropical storm coming at us, and guess what? He's sitting there with COVID in his front yard with me with the paperwork for him to sign, and a trucked up pipe shows up. So, he says, well, gee, looks like you're gonna do this job whether I sign this paper or not. To me, so to heck with you. Well, that's exactly the way it looked, and that's exactly what the plan was, because the engineers had told the contractor, go right ahead. We have power to do that, and they probably do, but still, that wasn't the right way to handle it. I mean, you're that close to having an agreement and screwed it up. So I screwed it up. So there's a history here is all I'm saying. I'm not saying, and the other thing that I would say that we need to keep in perspective, that's the main focus for everybody, is that we own a fairly sizable 463 feet, I think, of road footage on Lake Ashbury's dam, the North Dam. This group does. And when you think about modernizing, we're obviously going to have to go up in discharge capability. They did that on the South Lake. St. John Water Management District permitted that at half PMP, which is about a 500-year flood instead of a 100-year flood. So in all probability, we don't know what that's going to wind up being for the North Lake. And we're not going to know until more of the Hansen process has taken place. And then we'll know what it's going to take to get a permit and what that's going to look like. And it could be that the spillway, the one that's in contention right now, is not even going to be used. It's not going to be big enough. That's pretty well probably a known. If you said half PMP, then you're going to have to expand it though. So we're at a point where we really need to get, and that should be in with this 90-day time frame that we're in now. We should have enough information within 90 days, not to know here's what the design is and here's a few options, but to know the parameters that the design is going to be based on. And so I think I don't think we're in a position where we can make any decision on taking any kind of action until we know what that what that spillway is it going to be there? Is it not going to be there? If it's not going to be there, how are you going to get rid of it and plug it off and all that stuff? Same way with the kettle. That the west kettle discharges into that property too.
All set?
Yep.
Okay. So that covers the encroachments update. Siphon component quote, Tim's still working up the quote for the components and the labor that's going to be involved in actually repairing that. I hope
Parts
that.
aren't available right now. They're still trying to find.
Yep. So.
Talked to the guy today, and he said he's actually got a handle on it, but he said he'd let me know by the end of the week.
Yeah. So hopefully we'll have something for next month.
And I hate to say this, because this is like saying sour grapes and all that, but if we had fixed the east valve and never had to put that siphon system in, and then we've spent, without doing any more to it, we've spent $37,000 on the siphon system that we wouldn't have had to do at all.
True.
If we would have done that.
True, but if we have a hurricane category 5 that's going to bullseye us, you'll be glad it's there. It's excess, it's additional spillway capacity. I mean, it's good to have, it's not a bad thing. Well, it's not a bad thing from the board's perspective,
Yeah.
most of the board.
I'm just telling you, there's a lot more to it than just,
When I look at the volume of that spillway, and possible volume of that siphon, why would we bother fixing it?
Because the siphon,
Probably less than 5%.
because it's a bit more than that, but the siphon you can turn on 3 days ahead of a storm. That spillway, it's only going to work when the water exceeds the sill. So the water has to come up, which is going to be an after the fact thing.
So we can open the valves in the middle of the spillway.
the siphon.
So, so why do we need to fix the spillway? That's my question.
Because because it's additional capacity in addition to the 2 valves.
But the only reason it's there is because we didn't have the east valve working and it hadn't worked in more than 2 years. If it had been working and we had fixed it like Tim Lee would propose to do for us, and we, the board, wouldn't make the right decision, then we wound up having to put the darn siphon system in. And flushed $37,000 almost down the toilet, my opinion. Enough for me.
All right, so flood control protocol review. I emailed the board a dam operations protocol. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to review it. I got with Tim Lee. We made some minor edits to the North Lake Asbury rising stage section. Specifically the normal stage and then the increments by which it went up and down. The South Lake Asbury events, that's loosely based on the permit. It meets the minimum requirements of the permit, and in some places it exceeds the requirements of the permit. So I'd like to, before I make a motion to adopt that, I'd like to hear if anyone had any edits or concerns or comments about that.
The one is that it says in there that we open the spillway 100%. The siphon system in the spillway 100%, and we're not supposed to use it, so you can't leave that in there, in my opinion. If you want to use it, first off, you got to repair it. But secondly, you'll have to get special permission to use it. And like I told you, Cammie Dewey said, what would you say to me if I told you to take that thing out? So they're not in favor of it.
So did she tell us to take it out?
Not yet. But that's one of the reasons that one of the things Tracy Wood talked to me about too was the fact that Cammie is retiring in November, and that is one of the open issues that they want to have resolved before she retires. So.
Well, I don't see any reason to take it out if it's additional capacity. As long as it's there, use it.
No, it cannot be used unless you've got a permit from St. John Water Management District, which we do not have. And they will not give us a permit unless we've got the approval to access the property owned by Mr. Brown. And we'll have it.
So if we didn't have a permit, why did we install it in the first place?
Because the engineer of record said that that was going to be done because we were in a tropical storm situation, and come heck or high water, we're going to do it. And they instructed people to do it.
Emergency management was involved in that as well, that decision.
Okay. So again, this is used as a last resort. At this point, we've got both valves open 100%. The last ditch effort is to open that siphon. Would emergency management not come to us again and say, yeah, there's a Cat 5 staring down you. Go ahead, you can use the siphon.
The point is, yes, you're right, they would.
So
but the point is,
if they
we're going to
would-
draw these things down. If you got a storm watch and the stuff that you've documented in there that drives what your decision is, you're going to draw the lake down with the 2 valves that we've always had.
Assuming
They'll both work.
Assuming there are sunny skies before the storm. There have been plenty of times where there's been a nor'easter that comes a week or 2 before. There are plenty of times where there's heavy rainfall that's antecedent to the storm itself. I don't think we should limit ourselves, which is all we'd be doing by striking that language, is limiting the flow that we have. We're
All I'm
not-
saying is that if you're going to use the siphon system, you're gonna have to get a permit. Or you can't use it.
Is there a cost or a timeline associated with getting the permit, or is it not at all feasible?
Yeah, there's a cost and a timeline.
Do we know when that is?
It's not just that, Tom. One of the points
I
is
know, I'm just
that
trying
we
to-
have to access where that's at. It's not on our property.
Yeah, I'm just
Most
trying
of
to
it's
sort
not.
out the dots here.
So that comes back into the permission and easement and all that. And we're gonna have the same thing when we get into building all this stuff on all these dams. We're not just gonna have to be able to go out unilaterally and do whatever the heck we wanna do. You've got procedures and conversations that have to take place with property owners and the county, like the sheriff department. If you're gonna tear the road up, then you gotta redirect traffic. You got all kinds of stuff to do. So,
I'm not, I'm just,
yeah.
I don't see the value of that siphon for repairing, but that's neither here nor there.
Carol?
Okay, let's just say, per chance, that we get told we're gonna have a cat fight. And it's still sunny, and we know the siphon can work before the spillway works. Mr. Wright seems like a very reasonable man to me, in the sense that he's exposed to the same loss that we are exposed to. His house is sitting down there. I do not believe that being faced with those items, he's gonna say no. I think that most reasonable people would say, do what you have to do to move the water. That's just my opinion. And I am not telling Mr. Wright to do or not to do. I'm just saying, if it were my house at the foot of that dam, and I thought it would be saved by allowing us to use a siphon to get more water out fast, ask me what I would do.
Well, and he has done, you heard him say that he has given Tim Lee, as long as Tim contacts him, that Tim Lee goes and maintains the valves and that sort of stuff. He's done that ever since it's been installed. That's a verbal agreement. I asked Mr. Wright about the fact that we've got, in this next 90 days, we've got Hanson that will have geologists and other people here looking at all of our dams, all right? So can we have these people be on his property looking at whatever they need to look at? And he said, as long as he's advised of it, it will be fine. So I'm not trying to complicate the thing any more than it already is.
I mean, that's reasonable. If somebody's gonna come on my property, I wanna know they're coming. I'm just not gonna say I'm not gonna let them. I would let them, I just wanna know they're coming.
Well, and frankly, that's an example of one of the things that's happened in the past that didn't happen with Mr. Wright. Okay?
So we need to make every effort to comply with his request and notify him.
Yep.
I have a different comment.
But hold on, so maybe we could update that directly in there. Yeah, just put that in, request permission from Mr. Wright prior to accessing the siphon.
The siphon or the spillway.
That nullifies.
No.
that
Let me
concern.
tell you what one of the other problems that Cammie Dewey and the place you work, that them and the state, Tracy Woods, what they're concerned about is we haven't submitted a permit application for that siphon system. So they've not done any analysis or weighed in on, if you open that sucker wide open and it's putting out a big old funnel of water, what impact is that really having right at the end of the spillway where it goes into Black Creek and all this kind of stuff. So that evaluation has not been done, and Tocoi darn sure didn't do it. That was our engineering group. So
let me get this straight. Your concern is that it's so insignificant that it's not worth a damn, and your concern is that it could be so significant it could blow a bank out on the other side of the creek.
I'm saying that it hasn't. No, my concern is that it hasn't been permitted, and all the steps to go through to get it permitted have not been done. Therefore, we should forget it. That's my point. It shouldn't be in our procedure. It's not in there. It wasn't in there.
It's built. It is there.
It was in there.
We have permission to access it, and we currently do not have sufficient capacity at the North Dam. I think we can all agree that there is insufficient flood control capacity at that dam.
What happened in the hurricane of 2017 that handled it then? And the gates weren't even fixed.
I understand that. That wasn't a direct strike and that wasn't a lot of rain for this area.
Wasn't a lot of rain for this area?
Not for this area.
Well, it was the
That
first-
was, that
I was
wasn't,
told it was the first time in history the South Lake received water from, the North Lake received water over the dam.
that was less than a 100-year storm for our area.
Well, all I gotta say is if we don't have a permit for the siphon system and it doesn't work, it ought to be taken out and not worried about it.
My thought is that we've got operational valves, and as long as we're paying attention, we can draw down the water with the two kettles ahead of time. We should not need the siphon. We have 20-inch valves, right? That's a lot of water.
So then my last question would be to Mr. Hans. If we remove this system and God forbid there's a breach, are we liable for hamstringing ourselves by removing additional capacity?
Well, I mean, someone can always make that claim. Whether you're liable or not, that's up to a judge or jury. I mean,
Do you think it holds any water just off the cuff?
so, there would be a lot of expert testimony needed on both sides, which is kind of, as an attorney, I don't know about that, but I can tell you the procedure and the process. Anybody can make the claim. It would require a lot of expert testimony on each side on how it impacted it or did not impact it, and then it would be up to a judge or jury to decide.
Okay, so it's not a slam dunk either way is what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. Okay, fair enough.
What would it actually cost us or close? Give me an estimate. What does it cost to get a permit? Is that something you can do?
To get a
Permitted. That's a St. John's question, and
So it's like.
I'm guessing thousands, but it could be hundreds. I don't know. I'm not in permitting, thank God.
You could get that answer from them. I wouldn't be involved in that any more than maybe to answer some questions, but it's all done through them, through the district.
Well, I mean, we're sitting with something installed on somebody else's property with no permits that we now can't really feel comfortable using without the permits. So I mean, it's like.
We don't need it now. We got the east valve fixed.
I don't want to say we don't need it. I don't know we don't need it.
We didn't have it since 1965.
Well, we didn't have a lot of things since 1965, and that's why we're paying millions of dollars to upgrade our infrastructure.
Yeah, but if we'd have fixed the east valve, we would have never installed a siphon system. I've said that about 15 times now, and that's the last time I'm gonna say it.
Ma'am?
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you share with me and the audience what the difference is between the water flow that comes out of the valves and the water flow that comes out of the siphon system? And what it would take to trigger, opening the siphon system together with both valves?
Repeat the last part again?
And what type of a storm, 100-year, 500-year flood, would it take to open all the valves and the siphon system?
It's not going to be much. It'll be maybe an 80 or 100-year storm, maybe a 60 or an 80-year storm is my guess. Maybe even a 40-year storm. It's not going to be much to open them. But by the same token, when we're talking about a 100-year storm breaching the dam, to answer your question, is this likely to happen in the next 10 years? Probably not. Maybe in the next 20 to 40 years would be my guess. A 20 to 40-year storm would do the trick.
What's the difference in the flow that comes out of each of the valves?
I don't know their flow capacities off the top of my head. I don't think those calculations have been done, except for maybe by Decoy. I haven't seen those numbers.
Well, you got a 14-inch valve on the east one, you got a 16-inch valve on the west one. You got a 12-inch siphon, which is not actually a full flow valve, so it's a little less than 12-inch. But the 14 and 16, that's 30 inches of flow you have coming out of the lake. I forget, it's 60,000 gallons an hour that you can drop, something like that. I'd have to figure, I got it written down, might be 80,000 on the 30 inches, about 80,000 gallon.
You know, don't forget, the siphon only has atmospheric pressure working in its favor, where the kettle valves have almost 30 feet of head pressure, which is a lot more pressure.
No, the siphon's got the head of the water that it's sitting in.
Yeah.
It's the head difference between the head water and the tail water that drives the siphon, just as it does the kettle valves.
It's only down about 3 feet.
The cross-sectional area is pi squared, about 12-inch pipe, and 14 and 16-inch valves. You're only talking about, I'll give you 20% tops.
That siphon's only down about 3 foot. Once you get below that, it's going.
And you can offset that just by planing ahead and opening the kettle valves early. From back to you don't need the siphon.
Hey, he said it wasn't a slam dunk liability suit. I'll do whatever you guys want. You want to yank out the siphon? I'll yank out the siphon. Any other comments about the protocol? Tom, you had something?
Yeah, we were, when we get to where we're in trouble, like the second bullet on the North Lake edge, when we get to where the dam is rising and we gotta monitor it every 15 minutes.
Okay.
I don't understand why are we involving the secretary? And why would we notify by email if we're having a weather event? Can we count on email working? Or is this person evacuating with the rest of the community?
So
By phone or?
we could do it however you'd like. The reason I chose the secretary is because we needed a central dispersion point for the group. I thought the secretary was a logical choice, but it could be a member of it could be one of the officers.
It should be the succession of prior of the list. We go down the list.
The list is spelled out in the EAP.
Yeah. And is the secretary for that list now?
So
No, she's not in the. I don't think so.
No, she's not.
Kind of just doesn't make sense to me. I'm just bringing that.
Yeah, so this was just to notify the board that it was more of the idea of, okay, Tim Lee's on there basically full time at this point because he's running around from valve to valve checking them every 15 minutes. Hey, board, your contractor's on site full time, FYI. We still at that point, if you read the 15 minutes, is activate the EAP, which that's when we're going down the phone tree.
I just need a little wordsmithing. That's all.
Okay, you want it? We can send me your notes. We can approve this next meeting. That's fine.
Carl said when we were here tonight, he sent me a couple of questions. He said, no reference in notifying John Boyd Clay County Emergency that we're opening the valves or closing the valves. That's under his response about the protocol. So I didn't have time to go back and read this again, if I have what you want.
It's when it says activate the EAP, that's in the EAP.
That's in the EAP.
Yes.
We don't have to worry about that.
Correct.
His other concern was that Lake Asbury, the lead waiting for Lake Asbury to rise 8 inches should consider shortening to 4 inches, especially when more rain is coming to our area.
What was that last one again?
Okay, he believes that waiting for Lake Asbury to rise 8 inches, we should consider shortening that to a rise of 4 inches when more rain is coming.
That's what it says. It says 24.8. Its normal is 24.4. So it's only coming up 4/10.
Oh, so he was reading the same. He was reading the same Tecoy report that I did that said the normal stage is 24.
So that's what happened.
That's the error. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we're clear. That's it.
Yes, I think we're good at that.
You think the normal is 24?
24.4.
Might be worth just putting that reference into this.
The overflow pipes are probably at 24 or right at 24. So when you go out there and look at them, they have 3 or 4 inches of water over the top of those overflows all the time. That's how much water rises above those overflows. Because you have to drop the level down almost 6 inches before it'll stop overflowing, so you get down inside the pipes.
Any other comments on that? Nope. All right, so I'll floor a motion until I get comments from Tom, edits from Tom. And that's it for my sections.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody live on the south lake that's willing to have a gauge board on their dock so that they could monitor during the storm?
I live all the way down almost to Hazel Hill. I don't know if that'll work. We all doing that in Clinton.
I just need you to call.
I don't know, being that far down would help. I
Well,
need somebody closer to the.
no, not really, just need to know, so I don't have to get out and hurt.
Yes.
I'm fixing to put one on my dock,
Yeah, you can do it on mine.
so if you put one on your dock, you can say, hey,
I got it.
it's storming, and that way you can keep us abreast of 15 minutes trying to run back and forth around the lake.
Now, to be fair, it says it will be monitored. You'll notice I didn't say who would be monitoring it. So that could be us just as well as it could be you.
Right. So if I put it on my, I got a piece of gauge board and put on my dock, I'll cut it in half and put the numbers on it and holler at you. Yeah, that way if there is a storm, you can keep me informed, but hey, it's coming up 4 inches, you better get over here and start opening the valves. Or it's in the sun.
Okay? All right. Carol, I think you're next.
Push on that.
Push on that. I'll accept your push. You're done there. Janet?
Okay, grants. We have partnered with Kinley Warren for the grants, and I am working with them. We're going to be now going back and forth with Point diligently and daily. We are looking at both grants and upper portions. We have currently in process 8 grant applications. The High Desert Dam grant is the big one. That's the FEMA grant. It's a 65-35 split with the federal government. What happened with that one is we're going to have a year planning for that, because what has to happen is the money comes through and passes through the state. So we have to have financial and legislative planning so that we can get this to the state of Florida. So they effectively have to create an entire department to manage and to bring in the money for this grant. So that is in process. As of this moment, Florida Department of Emergency Management has agreed to manage that grant. So we're moving forward with that for 2023. A lot of folks have sent me emails about the Resilient Florida programs, and we looked into those. But what that grant is for identifying vulnerable areas. We've already been identified, so we're not eligible for that grant. But please, if you still see those grant opportunities, please continue to pass them on to me. And hopefully, fingers crossed, praying on my hands and knees that we land multiple grants, not just one. Moving forward.
So far, have they been good to deal with or not?
They're fabulous, yeah.
Okay.
Both the county and Kimberly Warren are wonderful.
Well, I think they put that in our request for qualifications. We did not put in there that they had to do something grant wise. We talked about this before too. They put that in, and I think part of the reason Tom would probably back me up on this is they looked at our financial situation and says unless we can help these guys get some money from somewhere, it's going to be a problem. So they're the ones that put that in there, and they picked up Kimberly Horn, the lady that's heading it up. The last name's Smith.
Actually, she's a subordinate to Laura Wimber. Laura Wimber comes out of Sarasota County and is now working for Kenny.
Okay, but Ms. Smith, yeah, Mrs. Smith is local though?
Yes.
Yeah. So, So they felt that was important enough. And they, you know, it's not just looking for grants, it's they're quote, going to help with communication as this thing materializes and all that sort of thing, which would probably be a help because they're a professional at doing that, so.
So we're also gonna look at the upper portions. So if there's anybody who knows Cat Havoc, we are looking to make connections with.
Okay, thank you very much. There's a question here, have all prior board motions been completed? I guess so. All that I know of. Any new business? There is one thing from the audience, Donnie Wright. He says that the siphon pipe, that according to DEP, I assume this is your conversation with DEP, any water running from the siphon pipe to Black Creek across private property, the landowner is responsible for any erosion and/or environmental damage that occurs. So, there's another reason you don't necessarily.
Another reason that not to run it, and another reason for if you want to run it, you need to own it.
All right. And I would remind all of us that we don't even know whether the spillway is gonna be there or not when we get the new system. So
Might cover it up.
Mike.
Yeah.
Okay. Did anybody else have anything?
Did we talk about this without spacing?
I thought you just laid
That got tabled for a month.
Yeah, they got tabled.
Okay.
You may have been in the restroom.
I don't have anything to add.
All right. Okay, well, I guess I would make a motion, we finish adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Wow, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, look.
2 hours.